Hello, welcome to the Legal Innovator podcast with me, Mev Dzhic from Verify 365 and Oliver Tromp from Actionstep. Ollie, lovely to have you on board.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mev.
Amazing. Today's podcast, we'll be discussing about case management systems, what's out there, what's good, what's bad, what the next big leap in case management technology is. And we'll also be looking at client onboarding as well. With that being said, any questions that we have throughout the event, feel free to ask, throw them out in the chat. I believe we have a Q&A section within this podcast. The podcast itself is recorded and will be distributed to everyone that has registered and beyond, anyone that really wants a copy. But with all of that wonderful stuff said, we'll go straight into it, to be honest. Ollie, as the name suggests, today's podcast is all about case management systems. What are your thoughts about the systems out there? What's the market like currently for case management systems?
Yeah, it's a great question. And just to introduce myself, I'm Oliver. I'm the director of Actionstep, which is a case management platform here in the UK. So the market you had asked at one point, I think, also about whether or not it's saturated. The case management software market in the UK, I would say, is saturated. There are a lot of providers, and there are a lot that have been around for a while. But what I would say is, even though there are a lot of case management software providers, there aren't that many that are doing things in a modern kind of forward-thinking way. A lot of them have been around for a while and have built pretty good products, but many of those products are on-premise, so that they're not actually cloud-based. A lot of those products have closed. They don't have an open API, so it's a lot harder to integrate with them, and they're just not quite as flexible. So while there are some really good products out there, a lot of firms are wanting to modernize, or they're wanting to move to the cloud, and there just aren't that many options. But yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I could probably name 10 other case management software providers in the UK, and there's probably more as well.
Absolutely. I think I was on LinkedIn or something a couple of weeks ago, and I came across this system. It had like 30 followers, like 2 employees, and I was curious what it was, and I checked it out, as you do, and it was a little case management system. And they just keep popping up. Whether for good or ill, I don't know. But I would say the market's quite saturated with case management systems. There's some key players, and without naming those key players, we pretty much know what they are, Actionstep being one of them. But there is a hell of a lot of case management systems out there. With that being said, you mentioned about cloud-based case management systems. And this is something I want to come on, because some people, one, don't really understand what cloud is. They have a general kind of working understanding of it, but in reality, they don't actually know what it means. Can you explain to us what the difference between, say, a cloud and on-premises case management system is?
Yeah. I mean, in the simplest way, you don't have to install anything on your computer. So if your laptop gets stolen, or you forget your laptop at home and you show up in the office and there's a spare computer, you can just sign on any browser. So Chrome or Safari or whatever browser you use, as long as it's a kind of major supported browser. And you can resume your work right from where you left off. So obviously everything is in the cloud. It's all accessible from anywhere. So whether you're working in the office, whether you're working from a coffee shop or at home, you've got all of your information, and not just yours, but the entire firm's information, all of the matters that you're actually working on, all of the clients that you work with, they're all there in one place at your fingertips. And it's actually very secure as well. I think one of the things that law firms one of the things that's kept them from moving to the cloud is just a little bit of uncertainty as far as GDPR and data privacy and security and things like that. And actually, when you get down to it, it's oftentimes more secure being on a cloud solution than it is being on an on-premise solution. I mean, if you're on an on-premise solution, it's your one server in-house or nearby or something like that. And oftentimes, if you're working from home, you have to remote desktop in or VPN. It just gets kind of overly complex. It's sort of a piecemeal solution that people have put together over the last couple of years. Whereas cloud-based, I mean, so many things we do nowadays are on the cloud. If anyone uses online banking or digital banking, that's
So,
it's extremely secure, but it's in the cloud. So I think a lot of law firms, while they've been hesitant to move to the cloud with case management software, they're already using it in some instances, whether it's payments through Stripe, whether it's DocuSign, whether it's Office 365. I mean, there's a number of different things that they're probably already using to some extent.
I was just going to say, most people, especially around the data side of things, they'll go, oh, does it comply with GDPR, or, is my, client data actually secure? And what they don't realize is cloud is just another way of saying not hosted directly at your office. Your Office 365, the people you're emailing through Office 365, that's all cloud. You don't actually have a server in your office that hosts your emails. It's through an IT company that hosts it with Azure or Amazon or something like that. So it is interesting that some people are put off by that. Which comes on to the next point I want to try to come to grips with, which is cloud was the big thing, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, maybe even touching 2012. And it's still considered quite an important thing now, but there are lots of people out there that do use on-premises solutions still. Why is that? How do we get those people from these on-premise solutions to ultimately a like-for-like on-cloud solution?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of law firms are still using on-premise systems, and I think the reason why is just because those were the first case management systems that popped up in the UK, and these systems have had a lot of investment, and they've been tried and tested over the years, and they're pretty good, to be honest. A lot of the on-premise case management solutions are decent. They do the job. They may look like they were built 20 years ago, because they probably were, but they function, and they hopefully don't break that much. But it's just what we find a lot of times with these firms is that they don't feel like this is the way forward for them in the long term. They don't feel like this is a solution that's going to last them for the next 5-10 years. And a lot of these on-premise providers they don't have a cloud solution that they can offer, or if they do, it's a beta version is 2 or 3 years away, and a lot of firms don't want to wait that long. So I think there has been a reluctance for a lot of firms to make the change, because it's a big change to adopt a new case management software. As most law firms would know, it takes a lot of time. It's expensive, or it can be expensive. You've got to think about data migration. You've got to think about how do you do this without disrupting the everyday work that your lawyers are doing. And
I also find interesting, since you mentioned the kind of jump from on-prem to cloud, what lots of IT managers or directors or whoever find is if they move from on-premises to cloud, they feel their job's almost threatened, because then they're like, well, what do I do? There's no security patches, there's no, downtime if I need to look at it and, bring it back up, so on and so forth. And for me, the simple answer is, but why would you want to do that? If it goes down, wouldn't you want Amazon or Microsoft engineers looking into it and making sure it's secure? If there's security patches, you want people a hell of a lot smarter and trained than you in IT infrastructure actually looking at this stuff.
It's true. Yeah, and one thing that I have recently been seeing a lot of as well is this isn't completely new, where, for the last 3-4 years, maybe even longer, for some firms 5-6 years, they've been thinking about this need to move to the cloud, and a lot of firms did. Some law firms are really forward thinking and embrace new tech, and they jumped onto one of the few cloud providers in the UK in the past 5-6 years, and those some of those other cloud providers are they're not quite as robust as Actionstep, for instance, and I know a lot of the other cloud providers still don't have their own built-in accounts package. So for office accounting, they just don't do that. They rely on an integration with Xero or QuickBooks, and so the other cloud products that are in the market and that have been around, that are more well known, are good for what they are, but sometimes as firms grow and as firms change, or for some of the mid-size or bigger firms in the UK, they aren't really fit for purpose. And so that's where we've seen some firms that have been burned. They've moved to the cloud onto a product that just wasn't quite fit for purpose, and then now they're reluctant to to move again.
Make the jump.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
it can be a pain, and I think sadly some of the more forward thinking firms may have gotten burned by adopting a cloud solution before it was really fit for purpose, or maybe it was one that wasn't quite fit for purpose.
Yeah. There's lots of case management systems now that are born in the cloud, so designed just for the cloud. And some of these legacy ones, as you said, they try and release the beta version. What I find that some of these kind of entrenched case management systems, and we won't name names, and not for the first episode at least, they go through a VPN like Citrix or something like that. As you said, they'll have to download it on their laptop, and they will claim to be cloud, going through the VPN, which is then hosted by them, which is not quite exactly the same. But that's how they get around with it. And then one system in particular actually has loads of problems with compatibility that way as well. So born in the cloud case management systems like Actionstep are fantastic when it comes to just little things like that. There's one system, again, won't name names, that just doesn't work on Mac. No matter how hard you try, it has terrible compatibility with Mac. And I get lots of law firms don't necessarily use Apple's products. They're mainly Windows products, but there are many that I know of law firms that actually strictly use MacBooks because of their speed and just their usage. You mentioned about accounts, office accounting specifically. There's a hell of a lot of case management systems out there that just don't offer office accounting at all. Why is it Actionstep does?
I think honestly, just because we try to offer as much as we can to keep things within one product, to keep things within Actionstep. And we've been around, despite us not being as well known in the UK, we've been around since 2004, and we've been cloud-based since 2004. So we've had a lot of time to develop our product and develop that side of it as well. To us, it's a key thing. I mean, law firm accounting is unique, and while Xero and QuickBooks are great products, they're not. Again, it relies on an integration, and generally that's a one-way integration. So it requires some duplicate data entry and things like that, and it can just be a pain. And so, yeah, we've had our office accounting side for a really long time, and it works well. Probably most of our clients in the UK use it, and and really enjoy that side of it.
Yeah, I know. Again, I've spoken to lots of firms where some of the only key reason that they moved from a previous case management system to the new one is purely because the new one had office accounting. Because for them, they literally do see it as, oh, if I pay for this case management system, I can save licenses at zero. And it is just that kind of zero-sum game that lawyers make decisions on. I want to come on to the next big leap, or the potential next big leap within case management systems. So you mentioned Actionstep's been around since 2004. I believe it came into the UK market around 2010, 2011, give or take a year or two. And it's been in the UK since, so it's very much entrenched within the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and the US. What we're seeing within a lot of case management systems from the US, and yourselves included, is payments. Why is this coming about all of a sudden now? We've had payment processes for a long time, but now I'm seeing payments within case management systems being a big thing. Why now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, more and more people are paying things online now and are comfortable paying things online. People just want convenience, and law firms have been doing this for a while now. It's not that new. Obviously, they've been taking payment, but via bank transfer or
WorldPay or something like that.
Yeah, WorldPay or Stripe or something like that. So it's not that new, but historically, you have to record that payment all manually in your case management platform. And again, I think the push is just to try to keep things in-house and simplify processes as much as possible, simplify data entry, reduce duplicate data entry, reduce manual error, the risk of manual error and things like that. So payments is such a key thing. I mean, every law firm needs to get paid, and they want to get paid. So if they can get paid faster by having it directly integrated into the case management platform and really easily accessible through digital means, if it can be recorded immediately, then all of the administrative side of these payments can be handled on the back end more quickly. It just simplifies management of a law firm, and it's becoming a really big deal. So yeah, we're really excited about our payments rollout.
I'm glad you said it's a big deal, because I was going to ask, well, is the uptake in Actionstep for payments quite large? Are people using it, or is it one of those features that, for lack of better words, might fall flat on its face?
There is a lot of interest. Not that many firms have yet started using it in the U.S. We've only released it right now in the U.S. But yeah, the firms that have started using it really like it, and we've got a lot of interest. I think we only released it recently, I think within the last couple of months or something. So still trying to get more and more firms onto it. But yeah, it's been really positively received.
Amazing. Is that the next big jump in case management systems then, do you think? Because I recall, granted, I've only shown my age here, I recall on-premises case management systems from the 90s, early 2000s being these bulky things hosted on-premises, then the big thing then being cloud, and now I'm seeing payments everywhere. Is that the next big thing in case management? Or what, if it isn't, what is to make people look at their case management system and go, we need a rethink?
I think it's part of the next big thing. In my mind, the next big thing is sort of the integrated ecosystem or the platform ecosystem. We see this with, Google or Microsoft, how these are kind of platforms that everything plugs into really nicely. Or Salesforce is another really good example. So Salesforce does so much, but it doesn't do everything. So you've got really good bolt-ons and things like that. And you can kind of pick and choose your ideal suite of solutions. We kind of see ourselves as that way, and I think there's going to be more and more of a move to that. To be honest, I think a lot of these case management providers that have been acquired recently, if you look at the bigger entities that have acquired them, they're sort of doing this. They're building their own suite of solutions by acquiring a form provider and by acquiring a couple case management providers and maybe acquiring an AML provider, things like that. And so they're building their own suite of solutions, which is one way to do it. And I think the other approach is to build an ecosystem that allows people to kind of pick and choose. And that's always been our heartbeat at Actionstep. Is we have an open API to encourage flexibility and to encourage multiple integrations. We integrate with a couple AML ID verification platforms. We do exactly. Yeah, we do, and we integrate with what we believe is the best-in-class forms provider and the best-in-class document management system and the best-in-class digital dictation platform. And if we don't, and if a firm really wants to use one that we don't integrate with, chances are, if they're a cloud-based solution, we can and we would integrate with them. So I think that's kind of the other side of it, is that platform ecosystem, that flexible ecosystem that allows law firms to look at the market and say, based on the way we operate as a firm, we need a good platform that allows us to be flexible and to fit that. And so this is the platform we're going with. And we're going to kind of bolt on these couple solutions for ID verification, solution for digital dictation, solution for AI, time recording, and having that flexibility and all those really advanced tools at your fingertips, because there's so much innovation happening in the legal market in the last few years. It's incredible. And I think before COVID, most of that was kind of at the enterprise level. So the top 50 firms have kind of had their pick of some of these innovative solutions for a while, but a lot of it wasn't really accessible to the mid-market. But since COVID, we've seen, I think, more of a push and a lot more innovation focused on kind of the mid-market firms, and that's where we've really tried to focus. Is how many innovative tools can we offer to these mid-market firms to help them find their ideal suite of solutions to really allow them to modernize and kind of just optimize their business.
I was going to ask, since you mentioned the mid-market, you a big solution that has everything inbuilt, it becomes bulky, and evidently what happens with that solution is it does everything average, because it can't have, the AML, it can't have doc forms, it can't have documents, that all can't be perfect if it's built into one solution, because just the amount of people it would take to actually manage that would be unmanageable. So you're right in that a central system like, Actionstep or a case management system with a bolt-on like Verify or Forms and that, so on and so forth, is going to be imperative. But with that many bolt-ons, do you think it then potentially prices out smaller firms, or is the general kind of price going down because of the sheer amount of solutions out there?
Well, I think it can become expensive. I mean, if a smaller firm wants 7 different bolt-ons for different things, it can get kind of expensive. Most firms don't need that though. I mean, what we tend to see, the most common kind of solution suite that we see for kind of smaller firms is, Actionstep is kind of the platform, and then an AML ID verification solution like Verify 365, and oftentimes a forms package like Formivo is one that we integrate with. Those are kind of the ones that we usually see as, for a lot of firms, that's kind of the core. Some firms as well, if they want more robust document management than what Actionstep offers, they'll also go for net documents. And again, that each of these things you add on is adding a little bit of cost. But what we've found with our clients is that the incremental cost for adding on another one of these solutions is so much less than the savings that you get from that thing. Like, for instance, one of our integrations is a company called MyTimes, and they do AI-based time recording. And that platform alone, I mean, yes, it adds on, 10, 20 quid or something per person a month. But by adding that on, firms are easily, finding another hour of billable time or something. Yeah. And so it completely pays for itself. Oftentimes they're finding 5 additional hours in a week of billable time or in a month. And so it pays for itself time and time again. So we're starting to see that a lot, that it can be a tough pill to swallow at first if a firm, especially if they're moving from a legacy provider that, they've been on a kind of a low cost for a really long time. It can be more expensive moving to this kind of subscription-based, cloud-based model on a per user per month thing, but it ends up saving them so much time and so much money. We've done a lot of kind of ROI studies with prospects and with clients showing how they'll literally save tens of thousands of pounds per year per person by moving to a more modern solution.
I find lots of law firms are also stuck in this mindset where it's all human-heavy, resource-intensive kind of working, which is support staff sending letters or recording time manually or this or that. And as soon as you get them having subscriptions or technology that does a lot of what support staff or fee earners do in terms of admin, then they don't know what to do, because MyTime, for example, it could help with recording time and all that kind of wonderful stuff. But lots of lawyers will turn around and go, oh, well, our fee earners do that already. Yes, it's not to replace them recording their time. It's to augment them and help them record more time, streamline here, make this go quicker, and just make your practice work more efficiently. But if they don't have that mindset initially, lots of new technology like Actionstep, Verify 365, and so on and so forth just can't be utilized to their maximum with those firms. But I'm slowly seeing, not slowly, quite quickly actually, seeing lots of firms seeing the benefit of systems like us, cloud-based systems more so than anything else.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, as a firm, just taking a step back and looking at your firm, really looking at it honestly and saying, where are we losing time? Where are we wasting time? What things are our lawyers continually complaining about, or what things are a continued just frustration, and how can we make those things better, and what tools are out there to make those things better. So it's really helpful to know where those kind of pain points are internally. That way you can go and find the right suite of solutions, because if recoverability isn't an issue at all, then maybe you don't need something like MyTimes. But maybe you're spending way too much time on client onboarding and ID verification, and it's not a very good process. That's a process that directly impacts your clients as well. So if it takes a lot of time, if it's clunky, then
you need
that
Verify
can be hurting your clients.
365. That's what you need.
That's true. Yeah, exactly.
Little plug. Since we mentioned client onboarding, I will come on to that. Client onboarding is one of these terms thrown out by everyone in the kind of legal tech world. Lawyers know client onboarding just as AML. Some know client onboarding as the complete client journey that clients will go through from moment of instruction to actually signing their client care letter or something to that nature. In your world, how do you see client onboarding? Where does it start and where does it end?
Honestly, I think it starts from the moment that someone hears about your firm, whether that's through word of mouth, whether that's through social media, whether that's through Google searching. So I think it's really important for firms to think about where people are coming to them from and to make sure that that's a positive experience. So make sure that the website is streamlined, that their website's easy to use, that there's a very clear kind of contact form or something like that, even potentially a chat bot or things like that can be really useful on the website, but also on social media, that there's easy ways for people to get in touch. I think it starts from there, and then obviously anything after that, it depends on the type of law. Obviously, it's going to be different for conveyancing than it will be for family or things like that. But yeah, I would say every single touch point from the moment someone comes across your firm to the moment that the work is done, and even after that, every touch point with the client is an opportunity to potentially, to build rapport, to get referrals, to really showcase the value that you can bring, because there's a lot of law firms out there obviously now, and there always have been, but it's more important now than ever, I think, to really add value and to make that client experience seamless and just
and it's the client experience, I think, is important, because every time I speak to a law firm, there are many law firms out there, and I visited enough over the past couple of weeks where you can see the actual process of them bringing on a new client is so arduously long and boring. Mm-hmm. If you're like me, you're relatively impatient. If there's a form to sign or if there's a payment to be made, let me sign it, let me make the payment so I can carry on my life and don't have to worry about, the little details going forward. What lots of lawyers do, however, is they kind of prolong that process to save them time, to make life easier for them. When realistically, when it comes to client onboarding, it should be about the client and their experience. And that's one of the key things that we've done with Verify 365 is how do we streamline that entire process and make it as easy for the client and law firm. It's not to place blame on the lawyer or law firm by any means, but how do we make that as easy as possible? Because we see this with millennials, we see this, and we will see this with Generation Z, which is they don't have time, they don't have the patience, they don't have the attention span to sit there and listen to, lawyers say, this is what the client care letter says, do this, do that. They just want something really easy that they can do pretty quickly, which has been a key tenet for us. Going on to my next question, without going too much on a tangent, how have you seen case management systems kind of adapt to this client journey focused approach that systems like Verify 365 has? How do you capture the clients? How do you make sure that the entire client journey can be managed through, say, Actionstep?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've built a kind of a simple onboarding or CRM kind of component within Actionstep. We have a web form builder, which you can, it's all no code, so you can build kind of a simple web form, put it on your website, and then any information that comes from that inquiry on your website will come directly into the case management system and trigger some tasks and a matter and things like that. So that's one way that we've done that. But there's a lot of companies like you guys, honestly, like Verify 365, that have done a really good job at thinking about what's the best way to onboard clients, obviously in a very secure way, thinking about GDPR, thinking about client experience, all that kind of stuff. And so what we've honestly tried to do is just integrate with these. And so we, obviously we integrate with Verify 365, a couple other ones that we're working on as well right now. And so we're trying to give for clients that option to choose whatever onboarding tool is best for their firm and is going to be best for their clients. So that's kind of where we're going with that. We think that we're not planning that I'm aware of to move into the kind of ID verification AML space, because there's so many incredible platforms out there already that have popped up in the last several years. We want to leverage that work that's already been done and kind of give our clients the pick of the litter in a sense. So.
Absolutely, and it goes back to this bolt-on solution, bolt-on process that you were talking about. And you're right, no system can have everything. That's great. If they build everything, it becomes average. So you do want a fantastic case management system. You do want a fantastic AML and client onboarding system, and you want the ability to be able to connect them together. So you have two great systems rather than one subpar system, in all honesty. I was going to ask one final question because we'll keep this podcast relatively short.
I guess on that note, I'm just curious how you guys do onboarding and how you think about. I mean, I've seen the products a little bit, but just how you guys think about it, I'd be curious to hear.
Oh, this is a great question. Similar to what you said, it depends on the specialism of the individual law firm. But let's take conveyancing, for example. So we do anti-money laundering very, very well. But when your client is verified, so you do their biometric ID, you do their source of funds, their source of wealth, you have all this wonderful rich data at your disposal. The next step would naturally be, well, I know my client is my client, so now I need to kind of, get them on board, get them to formally instruct me. So the next step for us would be, signing client care letters and terms of businesses. And then while the client's doing that, and this all goes back to the client experience, right? While they're doing that, if they're able to make a payment on account, if appropriate, for example, conveyancing, why wouldn't you give them that option? And the way that we approach client onboarding, anti-money laundering, all that kind of wonderful stuff is exactly like that. We take it step by step. We give the client the ability to do all of that in one go, in one sitting over a few minutes, rather than do this 1 week, do that the next week, do that the third week, and then a month down the line, you realize that you haven't even started on my matter. Get it done immediately, get it done sorted that day, so that your lawyers, the fee earners, can get on to doing the matter, whether it be fixed fee, whether it be hourly, is irrelevant. Get on actually doing the work. So your clients have a good experience with you, they like working with you, and ultimately create goodwill for your law firm. So that's how we approach client onboarding. What's also important is we appreciate that all of this then needs to feed into the case management system, and that's why we partner with Actionstep and the like, to make sure that all this wonderful data, the AML, the signed client care letter, the payments, the receipts, so on and so forth, all feed into a case management system so that you can manage everything centrally from there. I want to go on to one final thing. I know we discussed about what the next big thing the next big thing in case management systems being potentially bolt-on solutions, so on and so forth. But what are your thoughts on the kind of buzzwords of blockchain and metaverse and so on and so forth? Do you feel that in the next 5 years we'll have our first proper meta-virtual law firm?
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. I don't know how successful it would be, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do have that. We already see some legal tech companies innovating on the blockchain. Koju is a great example. They're another one of our partners that we integrate with, and they've built their entire platform on the blockchain to basically make the process of buying and selling a home more simpler and more collaborative and more visible. And so we're starting to see that already, which is great. The metaverse hasn't been as obvious to me. I think the biggest trend lately that I've been thinking a lot about, and that I see potentially drastically impacting the legal industry, is ChatGPT. And I don't know if you've been playing around with that, but I have, and I've installed the little extension on my Chrome browser, and I'll type something into Google, and ChatGPT will spit out its own sort of response. And and just yesterday, ChatGPT passed a Wharton MBA exam with flying colors, which is kind of crazy. It's really interesting. I think that, and it's only, the version of ChatGPT that we have now is the version that they released in 2020, and there's a new one coming maybe this year, which is like 5 times as powerful or something. So I'm really interested to see how that's going to change. I mean, I can already see how ChatGPT could be used alongside of Actionstep, for instance. Again, being a fully browser-based, cloud-based product, Actionstep, it's really easy. It'd be really easy to kind of have ChatGPT in your Chrome browser as well, and kind of benefit from the power of that. So I'm curious how that's going to impact the industry.
I think ChatGPT is going to be fantastic for any system. My marketing team loves it. They constantly play with it. At this point, I don't know what is original content written by us versus something that ChatGPT came up with in seconds. But it's, what's the best way to put this? I think ChatGPT is the next big step in chat support. Whether it's support or sales is irrelevant, but the ability to chat with something that isn't like pre-coded with different tree options, if they say this, say that, but actually something that can simulate human intelligence is going to be the next big thing. And I'd be surprised if more systems like it don't come out over the next 5 years, and that kind of takes over this old timely chat support system that lots of us, including us, use currently.
And I think for onboarding in particular, chatbots have been really really good. We have some clients that have kind of built their own chatbots for onboarding, and so rather than having a bunch of forms flying back and forth that are legal forms that an average lay person doesn't know really how to fill out or doesn't want to fill out, and it's not a positive client experience. Rather than that, these chatbots can just ask a series of questions. So for a conveyancing matter, it can ask the questions like, are you buying or selling? Is the property insured? That kind of stuff. And it can do so in a really simple and conversational way, and then use those responses to populate a form. We've already seen that. We have clients that do that now, and it's really slick. But yeah, I think ChatGPT could potentially make that even more. It could expand that beyond just your conveyancing cases that are very prescriptive to other types of matters that are maybe a little bit more bespoke.
I'm waiting for the day when they can integrate ChatGPT into like deepfake. So you'll have, and then you can just start creating like in-person FAQs dictated by Obama or something like that. I think that's going to be really, really amazing. With that said, Ollie, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've discussed a lot of things. To recap, I was joined by Oliver Tromp today from Actionstep, Regional Director in the UK. I've been your host, Mev Dzhic. Thank you all so much for your time, for joining us. For those that weren't with us from the start, this session is recorded and will be distributed to those on the session and to those that have registered but weren't able to make it. But one final time, thank you all so much for your time. And Ollie, naturally, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Bye.